Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. This is Judy here. Today, Kat and I will be making a video on how to get good IB grades. So for context, Kat has an IB predicted grades of 41, while I have an IB predicted grades of 43 with bonus. That means that I have 41 points from my 6 subject areas and 2 bonus marks from EE and ToK. We're going to become university students next year. Very exciting during the COVID time. So we want to share some of the tips that we have learned throughout our IB journey and that can be applied to all of you who are our fellow IB survivors. Hopefully you survive. With that said, let's get into this video while I suffocate myself in this very tight blouse with a back zipper that is only halfway zipped because it just doesn't fit. And also my braids are falling apart, but let's get started. Before we get into the tips and tricks that are less obvious to most students, we do want to lay down the foundation of what makes a good student or what helps to get good IB grades, which are basically things that all the parents and teachers will tell you. This may include organizing your computer or your drive files or your folders. This also includes writing down your deadlines, your homework, your assignments right after class so you don't forget them. Make sure you always hand things on time so you avoid having your IB coordinator chasing you down the halls and screaming at you until you hand in your assignments. Make sure you eat healthy even though you don't have time to sleep better or exercise more, but you can always make sure that you eat good food. Lastly, just work hard, actually study, put in the time, practice, and try to memorize the content as needed. So the obvious ones are now out of the way. Let's talk about the less obvious ones. We have broken this down into 4 categories, which are stress management and organization, how to get good predicted grades, studying, and resources to use to make sure that you study smarter, not harder. And lastly, but most importantly, stress management. And at the end of the video, we'll also talk a little bit about EE and ToK and what you should expect for them. As you can see, I have given up on my braid, but let's start with time management first. So the first and foremost is that you have to have your own system of agenda, and it doesn't have to be really complicated. It doesn't have to be really colorful or handwritten or, color-coded with like occasional stickers stuck on the page. You don't have to do that kind of agenda at all. It can be a very simple one. For me, I like to use sticky notes both physically and digitally. So you can download like a sticky pad and I'll show you guys in a screen record. I have basically organized my life into 5 sticky notes. As you can see, the most important one is the important dates that documents when I have a meeting, a test, an assignment due. I also have a few other sticky notes for the random things in my life but are still important, such as shopping payment, to-do list, an invoice for my debate classes, and of course my IB codes that I will be using to check my IB official grades in July, which I obviously cannot show you guys because it's personal. If you're wondering why I'm speaking really weird, it's because I have an ulcer in the back of my mouth, so it hurts when I talk. Thanks for understanding, guys. Another way that you can set up your agenda is through reminders on your iPhone, iPad, or I'm pretty sure Android devices also have these as well. Whenever you cross off something on your sticky notes or your reminder, you get that instant gratification of thinking that you have done a lot tonight and you'll feel really fulfilled, and that also motivates you in a way, thinking that you have used your time effectively and wisely. When it comes to study schedule, I have my own way or a general rule of how I organize my workload, which is I always put small assignments together to complete them in one night and then save one big assignment per night or per evening to complete. Bigger assignments just refers to, tests or internal assessment that actually make a difference on your grades, and smaller assignments can be like a homework or, preparing for quizzes tomorrow, something that is less significant. So if you have smaller assignments on top of a big assignment in one night, you're likely to feel a lot more stressed, and the quality that you will produce for your bigger and more important assignment usually just decrease, and that's going to reflect poorly on your report card. Which is why just put the smaller ones together, get it all done in one night, and then save a full chunk of hours for your bigger assignments. So now moving on to the third tip. You have to go to class even though you are so tired. Attendance at our school is always horrible. People just don't come to school when they want to avoid a test, or after they hand in their internal assessment, they just want to sleep in. Here's the thing. You have to go to class even though you're mentally absent. This is for two reasons. Firstly is that obviously you're going to miss out on a lot of course material, so you're only going to feel more stressed later on, thinking that you have more material to catch up, and you're always going to have more assignments to do in the future as well. So now you just added that extra workload onto yourself because you didn't go to school. The second reason why it's important to go to classes even though you're mentally absent is because consistency actually makes you feel less stressed. This is because when you're consistent and you're always doing your routine, then your brain doesn't have to think as much and your brain feels like you actually have your things together, and this will actually make you feel less stressed. Another tip that I have is that you have to give you at least one day of the week to sleep in. It can be a Saturday or it can be a Sunday. Let's be honest, IB students, as organized as we can, or as hard as we try to be organized, we are going to stay up late. So when you stay up late throughout maybe Monday to Friday, throughout the weeks, you're running on 4 hours of sleep or 5 hours of sleep for the best. Sometimes you just have to take a break before you continue to run, and this will make your future runs a lot better. So I think giving you one day to sleep in is really also just a reset button for you to reboost your energy. So I have two more quick tips left. Firstly is you have to find a time of the day that works best for you. I know that a lot of people say that morning times works best for studying, but that is definitely not the case for me and maybe for a lot of you as well. So I personally think it's totally okay if your best working hour is from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m., which is usually for me, but partially it's also because I have a lot of extracurriculars after school, so I don't really get home until 8 or 9, so I have to start working at 10. But what's most important is that you have to get into a habit of working at a regular time. So if you are going to work at 3 to 6 every day, so make sure you do that every day. If you like to work from 10 to 2 like me, then make sure you do that every day as well, but your brain likes routine. So if you always work during a specific time every day, your brain is going to train itself to become more efficient and more awake at those hours as well. Lastly, let's talk about the all-nighters, something that everyone has done. The rule for me when it comes to all-nighter is that never pull an all-nighter if it's a test tomorrow. I feel like when it comes to test, you can only study for so long and so much, like your brain has a maximum capacity, and the rest is really just up to fate. I never pull an all-nighter for test because it also makes you feel a lot more tired and have harder time to concentrate the next day. However, I do pull a lot of all-nighters when it comes to writing papers, because if you don't have anything else due tomorrow, I think writing paper is okay when you pull an all-nighter because it's not like you have to memorize your paper the next day or anything. While pulling an all-nighter, make sure that you're actually able to produce the best work that you have with the amount of time remaining till the deadline, and that's just what I do. This tactic has been used mostly on my IAs, which are internal assessments, extended essay, and my ToK essay. Secondly, let's talk about predicted grades. You have to understand that your IB predicted grades are actually a lot more important than your final grades, because your predicted grades are the ones that you use to apply for universities. Aside from all the studying tips, working hard, and everything else, there's one core component that goes into your predicted grades, which is your relationship with your teacher. How it works is that the teacher usually reserves a few spots for the good grades, like the 6s and the 7s, and they will reserve a lot more spots for the 3s to the 5s. If you want to get yourself up to the 6s and the 7s, you have to give your teacher a really good impression so that your teacher has faith in you, thinking that you're going to do great. Then they'll give you that predicted marks. To be honest, it can be quite subjective sometimes, which is why I want to emphasize on how important it is to have a good relationship with a teacher. Because if a teacher likes you, they're subconsciously going to trust you more, and they're more willing to give out the rare spots of 6s and 7s when it's in your predicted grades. A few tips on how to form a good relationship with the teacher is that firstly, you talk to them after school, like maybe prepare 1 or 2 questions after school. You don't have to see them for a really long time, but you just do it regularly to show that you do care about their course. Teachers want to feel that they've helped their students, which is why sometimes maybe you're not that confused or you don't have that many questions. It is still good to check up on the teacher, be like, hey, I just want to confirm this. I just want to clarify if this is right. And the teacher will feel like they're actually helping you and they can see your improvement and they think that they have contributed to your growth and they're going to like you a lot better and you're going to have a closer relationship as well. And the last one is maybe you can get a little bit personal with the teacher, like not in a flirty, like I want to date you way, like that's weird. Ask them how their day is, or like if there's anything, are they stressed, are they tired, are they sad? You can still ask a little bit about their personal life. Most teachers do like to share a little bit about their personal life, and this will also help you make you and your teacher a little bit closer. And the most important thing, I don't know, I'm doing this hand, is that you have to let the teacher know that you want a 6 or a 7. Because a lot of teachers just assume that students just want an average grade, right? They think that, oh, it's already pretty good that you're getting a 4 and a 5. And this is the time where you have to step in and tell them, be like, no, I want a 6 or a 7 because I have such and such goals. Be like, I want to apply to a really good university, or I really like this course. I want to prove to you that I can do it. You have to verbally tell them that you have these plans, you have these goals, and that you want that 6 or 7. When the teacher has to choose between you and a few other students on who to give out the 6s and 7s in their predicted grades, teachers are usually more likely to give that good grade to a student who have shown that they want it. On a side note, I don't know if this is a common experience, but sometimes it can feel quite embarrassing to talk to a teacher like that or asking them for grades, because I feel like a lot of times you probably just think that, oh, if I work hard enough, then I will get that grade in return. But a lot of times it's also about how you are willing to fight for yourself. And sometimes you might get rejected by the teacher. They might be like, oh, no, I can't do that. But you have to face it, and it can be very awkward or embarrassing at the moment. And I think in years later, I don't think you'll regret these moments at all. Another reason that I would feel embarrassed to ask a teacher for marks is that I think other students will find out, and then they will now see you as maybe a teacher's pet or a try-hard student. And you know, I think in high school it's just not cool to be the try-hard one or to be the teacher's pet. But sometimes if you want that good grade, you just have to ignore these comments. To be honest, it could just be all in your head in the end anyways. That is it for my recommendation, and I will now pass on the torch to Kat, who will talk more about the other 2 categories.
So now we already know the importance of having good predicted grades. You may be wondering, in a how to get good IB grades video, why haven't we gone to the obvious? Why haven't we gone over study tips? You know, how should you actually study in order to get good grades at school in IB? Well, this is the part that I'll be talking to you about right now. In order to get good grades at school, you gotta study hard. That's a given. We've already talked about that. But, you know, in this section, I'll be here to help you by giving a few suggestions on how you should study to ensure that with every hour, every minute of studying you put into your IB courses, you're getting the maximum output. Firstly, sorry to disappoint, but there's no surefire way into getting perfect IB grades, into getting all those 7s that you've dreamed of in your dream, because that's, you know, it's a dream, okay? Very few people actually get 7s. Statistically speaking, only the top 5% of students in every course gets a 7. So even if you're not getting the grades that you wanted, but you're doing everything you can, don't get discouraged. Just keep working on it. Just do the best that you can. However, that being said, there are definitely a couple of study tips that I will pass on to you as an IB veteran to my newer, hopefully luckier IB new green beans, greenies, IB greenies. I'm gonna call you guys IB greenies, and hopefully you'll find them more useful. I'm gonna use chemistry as an example on how you could study for your class in order to get a higher mark. So I know I actually got predicted a 7 in my HL Chem course, so like, trust me, okay, I know what I'm talking about, at least in terms of chem. This is the best resource you're going to have in terms of studying and what you will need. I think anyone who's been through the IB program will be able to tell you past papers are the way to go. Why? There's a couple of reasons on why. Firstly, the way IB assessments are structured, there's like a certain IB algorithm in the way that examiners will come up with questions and in the way that you'll be marked. For someone who's just starting DP, the first time you open a IB paper, you might be kind of shocked, and all the questions may look really unfamiliar to you and you don't know how to answer them. And this is why, once again, we need our past papers. By doing questions from past papers, you'll be able to understand that IB algorithm, as I like to call it. And basically, you'll be able to know how to answer these questions, and you'll begin to understand sort of the pattern of the questions that you keep seeing on these exams, and you'll get an idea of what they're actually asking you to do, to write about. So when you're doing your past papers, also look at the mark schemes, which are also equally, if not more important than your practice questions. They will tell you how an IB exam is graded, what you need to write, the specific words, the specific answers in order to get a certain point. For your language courses and for your more subjectively marked courses like English and the languages, I think a good tip is to look at past student examples. For example, before I did my paper 1, our teacher gave us a lot of like paper 1 past samples, and you see how they were graded according to your the course rubric, for example, the paper 1 rubric. And it's also very important to communicate with your teacher to fully understand the rubric, to know what kind of level of work that you have to produce in order to get a certain grade on the rubric, so you can guarantee that you can maximize the points that you're getting. So you get an idea of what the IB is looking for to get those top marks in each of your subjects. Oh, the other thing about past papers is that for a lot of your courses, at least at my school, the classroom tests and quizzes that consist of your predicted grades and your term grades, all of those questions that you see will be IB past paper questions. And so by doing a lot of past papers in order to practice, not only are you understanding the way that IB phrases their questions, the IB mindset, the IB algorithm better, but you'll, chances are, see some of the questions you've already done on your unit tests. I'm not telling you to go look at the IB question bank and memorize all your answers, which you could do, but it's going to take a long time, and if you did it, it would just improve your knowledge in the subject anyway. But if you do a lot of past papers, you'll be able to see, hey, that's the question that I saw the other day. It's on the exam. And then since you've already done it, you will know how to do it again. So that's a way to bump up your grades a little bit and just to give you more confidence, I think, when you're going to exams, which is why past papers are everything. And I think I might sell these. I don't know. We'll see. If anybody wants them, hit me up. A lot of IB past papers you can find online, but some of them are paid. For math, I would suggest to use, what's it called? For math and a lot of the sciences, a website that I'm going to recommend and I'm going to put here is Examate. I've used it so many times for math and for the sciences, a lot of multiple choice. For math, everything literally is there. I think now that they're using a subscription system, so for a lot of the the newer tests, it has to be paid, but there's still a lot of good questions on there, so you should definitely check it out if you're looking for that. Another study tip I want to give is that another time we're using the chemistry example, study guides, like this one, that I didn't buy, that I found at my school and my teacher said I could keep. Even though my textbook is not this version and my school isn't even using the Oxford textbooks anyway, study guides are a really good way to study for your exams, especially because you have such a short time spent in a study guide. They break down all of the sub-chapters in a unit that you're studying into pretty digestible, usually page-long notes that just go over the key points and the main ideas. And there's also some practice questions, which are pretty good, I think. They're not as good as the past paper stuff, but they're good. If you have time, you should do them. And I think, honestly, this saved my grade in chemistry, because instead of going over all my notes from every single class before every exam, I could just take this out, because I've already learned the content once, as my teacher was going over it, just having a quick review in a day or two, because let's be real, no one's gonna study for more than a day or two for any exam. Just go over the key points in here, which are pretty detailed, and as long as you understand them, this is a great way to study for exams. We should take a stretch break. Everybody do yoga. What do you guys do in quarantine? I've been trying to learn more K-pop dances, even though I suck at them, even though I'm not even that big of a K-pop stan anyway, but I want to look cool, so I've been trying and I haven't been very successful. Was that a good leeway? Maybe not, but lastly, we're going to talk about something that's a lot more chill, which is stress management. And how will you relieve stress in the hell that is the IB diploma program? There's a couple ways. The first way is you just don't, like I did. like, I try to, but like, you know, you try and you don't, and you're just like, I think the first way that we can manage our stress is to not lower our expectations, to manage your expectations. Like we've already mentioned a couple times in this video, even if you put in your 100%, you may not be getting 100% of your expectations. And you understand that because the IB diploma program is such a hard curriculum to study. And just because you may not be doing as well as you hope doesn't mean that you're not doing good. And it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. But remember, all of your classmates are going through the exact same thing you are at the exact same time. So if you're feeling stressed about that IAs that's due tomorrow, guess what? Your classmates are also worrying about that IA that's due tomorrow. And, you know, do study groups, hang out with each other, and like study together so you can motivate each other when you're all, you know, having a hard time. A lot of our cohort, what we do is we text each other at like 2 a.m. in the morning, be like, hey, I'm still writing that lab, what about you? And they're like, hey, me too. And then you guys write together. We're not gonna pretend, anyone who's gone through the IB, we're not gonna pretend that, you know, it's a breeze. It's like, if you manage your time, you'll be fine. You'll be fine, you'll make it through. But for most students, the IB is definitely a time in their academic career so far that they have struggled, like at least in some capacity. Like you can't go through the IB without like breaking a sweat. Like it is designed to be difficult. And so if you're struggling, it's okay. It's just to take a breath, to know when you're struggling, it's okay. Other people have gone through this. Keep going, just always keep going. Motivating each other. Another thing, good food, sleep a lot, as much as you can. We're not gonna pretend that you're not gonna lose sleep as well over IB, because I have. My sleep schedule is still needing to be prepared. And so, you know, get good food, take care of yourself, love yourself. It's very important. Self-love is just as important as getting good grades, and just breathe. To conclude this video, I mean, what can I say? In the IB, if you want to do well, I think the number one, I've said that 3 times, so, you know, to reiterate it, to repeat it, to underline the importance, is that you just have to be determined and dedicated to it. It's really what you make of it. And even though, you know, if you feel like you've tried your hardest and you still haven't gotten all those 7s that you hoped for, if you're not dedicated enough, you'll definitely not get there. Oh yeah, and this is the last sort of epilogue, I'm gonna call it epilogue area, which is, we're gonna talk about the EE and ToK for a little bit. The EE and ToK are considered your core IB subjects. But really, in terms of college admissions and what universities look at, your EE and ToK are not even an afterthought. Like, they don't really matter as much, even though they do account for 3 points in your total 45 points. But overall, I would just say don't stress about it. Do the best you can, definitely. Like, don't throw it away because you can get those extra points, right? If you don't get all the bonus points, don't worry about it. It's okay. The world's not gonna end. Don't worry about it. Like, they're just, it's not, in my personal opinion, it's not as important. So yes, so relax, it's okay. Not everything is so super important. You know, in IB, you gotta prioritize. If I've got my EE due tomorrow and my IA, I'm gonna work on my IA probably, because subject points are definitely more important. Okay, and that brings us to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I definitely hope that it was helpful in some regard. And if you have any questions, leave us those questions in the comments below. I think this will be the end of our IB series, but we might make more videos from now forward. We'll be getting our grades in just less under a month, which is very scary, terrifying. But bye-bye. Good luck in your IB endeavors. I hope you good fortune.